I won't even ask you who I'm talking with. I'm talking with Jack Newton from Clio. How many years for ClioCon?
This is our 7th ClioCon, if you can believe it. So we started back in 2013 at the Hotel Saks with just over 200 attendees at that very first ClioCon. And 6 short years later, we're celebrating our 7th ClioCon, and it's grown to 2,000 attendees. We've got over 90 exhibitors and sponsors of the conference here. We've got keynote speakers like Daniel Pink, Glenn Greenwald presented yesterday. So yeah, it's unbelievable how far this conference has come in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, I was walking, taking the escalator up, to get to talk to some of the keynote speakers in the back room. So, it's not that long ago that it was like this impression, okay, this is kind of cool. People go to Chicago and you got this quaint user conference, kind of will it ever grow banana? Now you had some vision of what you thought it could be. I guess I wouldn't have underestimated you, but I never really thought it would have been like this.
Yeah, well, truth be told, I had a vision for what I hoped it would eventually become, and this is really, I think, in a lot of ways, become even grander and bigger than what that initial vision was. I think, and maybe it's in step a little bit with I think our growing ambitions for Clio as well.
Right.
Where 6 years ago we had a different series of goals in mind for where we wanted to take with Clio, and I think especially when we celebrated our 10th anniversary and thought about the kind of opportunity that lies ahead for Clio and the way we want to transform the legal industry, we started viewing this conference as a really essential tool for us catalyzing that change.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real moment for me, probably 3 or 4 years ago, that I realized Clio's got to be way more than just a software product to really have the kind of impact from a mission perspective. And as you know, but maybe not all of your viewers do, our mission is to transform the practice of law for good. And we realized, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, that things like ClioCon need to be about obviously evangelizing the product and hopefully getting people more successful with Clio, but it's also about how do we need to innovate in the way that we're delivering legal services. How can Clio be part of helping the legal industry as a whole thrive, and that's really what the conference has become, is a really important both communication platform for us to talk to the industry outward, but also to bring together the thought leaders in the legal industry, and you look around and it's really a who's who of everyone who's doing anything interesting in legal.
And leave them inspired to go do great things on their own.
Right, and create a space for them to collaborate and get together.
I mean, you've grown into this role. I'm talking Clio and you personally.
Yep.
I mean, so you guys have become very worthy of the role you're now playing in the industry, and so have you. I mean, things have dramatically changed. You're out sitting on other boards right now.
Yep.
How do you view your role in that regard? You have positions in other companies and boards and whatnot based on your stature in legal.
It's humbling for me on one end, where I'm sought after as this seasoned professional in legal technology, and I look back and there's a little bit of a disconnect almost, where I still think about Clio and myself as the upstart, and the startup that is still trying to disrupt incumbents and disrupt an industry with established on-premise players. So for me, it's almost a moment of reflection where I realize, wow, we're actually the grandfather of this new wave of technology as one of the first cloud-based applications and the first cloud-based practice management product when we launched back in 2008. I realized, maybe with the benefit of hindsight, like, wow, I have learned a lot. I've got a lot of knowledge and experience and hard-earned lessons, and I always talk about, I view part of my role as I was really just trying to pay it forward. I want the next generation of founders to be successful. I think there's a lot of what I describe as avoidable scar tissue that if I can pass on a lesson that was maybe a hard-earned lesson for me to a younger founder or to an up-and-coming founder, that's massively valuable, and something I want to really evolve into is somebody who's helping create large-scale impact in the legal industry in a way that is bigger than just Clio. Clio's obviously the primary platform for that, but I want to be strategically helping out, a lot of different companies who are kind of locking arms with us and trying to transform this industry.
You can't do it all.
That's right.
And you did a wonderful job in taking that brand from the cloud-based and what it could do there for people to transforming the business and the practice of law.
Yeah, thank you.
And in addition to how that's perceived in the outside world, probably 80 times more important is the belief that your team has, and how it inspires them to do great things that you're not doing that they can do better than you ever would.
Yeah.
You guys continue, to bat above your weight. We're learning things as we go. We try new things. We're not afraid to try things. And all of a sudden you're up here, and you're up here, and then you're up here. Recently you just raised a huge sum of money. It's staggering when you think about it. I try to imagine if I would have told you and Ryan, standing at the ABA Tech Show 10 or 11 years ago, hey, do you know you guys are going to raise $250 million in about 10 years?
We would have laughed you out of our booth.
Do you realize we got to return this back to the Apple Store to get our money back?
Exactly.
Jack,
Exactly.
can I steal a selfie with you, man?
Can we wait a minute?
Sure.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. Okay.
That's all I need, man.
Great to meet you.
Thanks.
See how popular you are?
There we go.
You didn't have to sit on his board.
Not yet. We'll wait for that.
No, if I would have told you those things, you just said, and I might go to the moon, and a rocket that Ryan and I build would be a better chance, maybe.
Well, it's truly astonishing, and I think huge validation of what the mission's grown into.
Right.
That we've got some of the most sophisticated and smartest investors on the planet underwriting.
Tell me about them.
Yeah.
And how you came together with them and how they grew with Clio for some of them, and now there's new investors and new people. And what you think they see in you. In your team.
I think that what they saw. So number one, Clio was in the very fortunate position of we've seen enormous growth over the last decade. We've been growing, dramatically year over year, and we've been in the very fortunate position of actually not needing to raise capital, which only makes investors want to invest in you more. Is if you say, "Don't worry, I don't need your money." But we were at an inflection point, as a company where we saw an opportunity to really double down and accelerate on our vision, and we had dozens of venture capital firms and growth equity firms pursuing us, trying to convince us to take their money. And I've got to say, TCV and JMI, who are the two firms we ended up partnering with, were two of the most persistent firms that spent literally 4 years building relationships with me and the management team and even our existing investors. TCV, leveraged Mark, for example, saying, we really want to get in on this Clio deal. Do you know Jack? Can you make an intro? And can you help, get us to the table if they end up doing a deal, which is exactly what Mark did. And it all came together in a way that I'm super happy with, where I shared with them the vision they're buying into is, a few of the facts and a few of the aspects of the vision they're buying into. Number one, they want to invest in and back clear industry leaders. They want to back the number one company in a space that has the opportunity to become the overall winner and dominant player in that space, the long-term enduring winner. So, I think with Clio, they saw the opportunity to say, look, this is the Salesforce for legal. And in the same way that Salesforce.com utterly dominates the sales automation industry, they saw the opportunity for Clio to really do that in legal. They saw an industry that has still really, even with all the success Clio has seen, they see us as not even being in the early innings, but just walking out onto the field when it comes to technology adoption in legal. And even with the success we've had to this point, we still see a vast amount of under-penetration of technology in the legal industry. As I mentioned in my opening keynote, I truly believe legal is the last major industry to be fundamentally transformed by technology.
What do you guys see as the size of the market?
I mean, the size
size
of the market, I would say is, number one, we've got 1 million attorneys in the U.S. I think we have 2 to 3 times that in terms of staff surrounding those attorneys, and the worldwide market is 2 or 3 times bigger than that.
Right.
So I think there's an opportunity, and the vision for Clio, the longer term vision, is not only to transform the practice of law for good, but we think we have a really solid shot at becoming an IPO scale company from a revenue and growth perspective. And that's always been mine and the team's dream is can we build and show that a legal tech company can not only drive a lot of positive change for the industry and create more opportunity for lawyers, but also in the process of doing that become an enormous and successful company where myself and the management team are able to number one, foster the amazing culture that's helped get us to this point, catalyze this industry change, make our customers more successful and happier, make their clients happier and more satisfied with the interactions they're having with their lawyer. And as a side effect of doing all of this, I think we're also really increasing access to justice by allowing lawyers to operate more efficiently and deliver client experiences that match their client expectations.
You have that latent demand, access to legal services that people wouldn't even thought of using a lawyer because they're not sure what they did or they didn't know a good one or they don't interact in that world. So when I go out, I mean, you probably run into the same crew. I run into a lot. So I'm talking about Clio, the culture, what you guys are building, being a platform that people can integrate onto, and it's going to continue to grow and grow. You haven't seen probably anything. They're in large law.
Yeah.
So they're looking at, Clio's doing this thing, and they're doing really good. They're dealing with mom and pop shops and solo lawyers or whatever, but it's obviously nothing that we'll ever be involved in. I never looked at it that way. Now when you realize the opportunity and the foundation and this platform that you build now to grow from, you guys see the opportunity for, like you just described, that it's 1 million lawyers in the States. It doesn't matter what size of organization you're in. You could be using things on our platform.
Yeah, and I view every lawyer in the U.S. as a potential customer. I see that there's going to be, I believe, long-term advantages to solos and smaller firms and boutique firms over the very large firms. I think that there's been plenty published about this, but there's diseconomies of scale as you grow, and I think technology is actually, interestingly enough, rapidly creating this asymmetry where solos and small firms and mid-sized firms have better tools at their disposal with tools like Clio than their large firm counterparts do. I had a small firm mention to me recently that they were using Clio Connect to interact with a client and give them a secure portal for logging in. And this client had previously been working with an AmLaw 10 firm, and with their literally millions of dollars of on-prem systems, they were still not able to deliver this kind of a client experience. And this client preferred using the smaller firm using these cloud tools that deliver a better client experience, as Clio does, over working with a big firm that doesn't have these tools. So I think what's really interesting is all of a sudden, and it's just happened over the course of a decade, but the scales have really tipped in favor of nimble firms that can adopt new technology rapidly and use that to become more efficient and to deliver better client experiences.
Yeah, like when we introduced blogs, and all of a sudden lawyers are going, this is amazing. I'm sitting there next to Skin because I'm publishing in environments that they could only have access to before, and they're not even using it as well to reach people. It's phenomenal when you think about it. In that fashion. The other thing that has to be going on too is you have greater and greater efficiencies of technology, which is disrupting the large firm model of, I've got 500 associate lawyers or junior partners below me that are billing at $400 to $500 an hour, and it's going out to the corporation. So I'll sit at the end and I get my $800,000 salary, but I get my $1.5 or $2 million profits at the end of the year. Those profits at the end of the year are going to be gone because who's going to pay $400 or $500 an hour? Things that can be somewhat automated and require less people.
A bunch of things, right? There's the things that can be automated. There's the structural costs of having that AAA office space in downtown wherever that I know a good friend of mine works at a very large law firm in Canada, and he was sharing with me the other day that his overhead is $20,000 a month. So he needs to do $20,000 of billings before he even breaks even for the firm. Because of the administrative overhead, the technology overhead, the AAA office space he has in downtown Vancouver, all of that stuff, and that's what creates the structural access to justice problem.
Mine was $30,000 in La Crosse,
right.
Wisconsin in 1996.
Right, and I'm sure $20,000 is actually not bad compared. So you just think about that, and you think about what about?
You need all that, and what do we start to strip that away?
And we're just on the cusp, and this is the vision for Clio, and where I think things are very rapidly heading is the need for bricks and mortar law offices are going to go away. The need to impress your client by inviting them into your marble-lined lobby and expensive walnut-burled office environment is going to be in the rearview mirror. And we're going to have nimble lawyers delivering legal solutions to their clients, working out of a WeWork, working out of some other co-working space.
I interviewed somebody this morning. She's working out of a trailer.
What, working out of an RV? I spoke to the same lady.
She was speaking your.
It was like a roving law office. It was amazing. With 3 kids. So I think that's, you'll see people working out of their home office, but they'll be able to deliver better legal experiences using technology at not just a slightly more efficient cost basis, but an order of magnitude better cost basis than what their traditional bricks and mortar large law firm competitors are doing.
That woman that we both talked with, she's doing sophisticated energy work.
Oh yeah.
For different. It's not. Somebody say, well, our firm does all this stuff for major businesses. She has some really sophisticated clients.
Oh yeah, and I meet those lawyers all the time. They've left very large firms. They've moved into a boutique practice or a small practice, and they're the phrase I keep hearing is I work half as much and I make twice as much. I've talked to several customers that have been able to make that transition. They're able to keep all of the revenue they're generating. Their overhead costs are minimal. They're able to essentially pay for a few software as a service subscriptions and other minor, maybe some a legal research tool, and they've got everything they need to run an efficient law practice.
And you need to keep the drive and the energy going for that with your team and with all these people that are becoming your evangelists,
right.
Even me.
Right.
Because at times I get cynical as to whether I can push this rock over the hill. And I come here and I go, I can do this.
Right.
Based on you and Clio, but even some of the speakers you have that are
inspiring. Absolutely, yeah.
Not afraid to say what I think, which you guys have a heck of a swagger right now in saying, this is the way it's going to be. Look what we just found in our reports. Lawyers are woefully inefficient. Yeah. Lawyers are pathetic in the way they're responding to customer service issues. It's really inspiring to hear.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. We think there's so much gnashing of teeth around what the future of the legal profession looks like, and I talk a lot about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and I think the legal industry, if they take a growth mindset approach to things, if they look at something outlined in the opening keynote, which is this product market fit opportunity, if they look at it not as this $437 billion industry is highly competitive and getting commodified, how about the fact that there's 77% of this market that is completely untapped?
And what about these niches?
If you innovate even in the most minimal of ways,
yeah, you showed that.
If you innovate in a way that lets you be more responsive to inbound leads, if you find a way to pick up the phone, and maybe that's hiring one of the 3 call answering services that are here directly integrated with Clio, so that you make sure you're picking up every single inbound lead. You're using a proper lead tracking system to make sure you're nurturing those leads and moving them through a pipeline. You look at your law firm as a business, and that's something Mark Britton talked about yesterday great reviews, is the fact that lawyers need to look at themselves as business people. They need to look at lead generation, and they need to look at their prospective clients really as leads they need to be responsive to.
And here's this guy, how Jack Newton, with what, 3 kids?
3 kids, yeah.
Tanya, you're not a lawyer.
Nope.
You didn't grow up wanting to be a lawyer.
Guy.
You're a technology guy.
Yeah.
You're building the following. how did that happen? Just very quickly. How did Jack Newton get here to lead all these lawyers to, somewhat the promised land of how you can use technology to have a better life?
I think number one, there's as non-obvious as it might be, there's so many parallels between how I've built Clio and the lessons I've applied and the way I've built Clio, and the way that I think lawyers need to be looking at developing their clients and developing their opportunity. And when even the book I just published, the Client-Centric Law Firm, and I know you've got a preview copy. It's really an adaptation of the lessons I've learned in building Clio and being client-centric in how we've built Clio. And I think what happened, I think to answer your question more completely, I think one of the really important things that happened is I realized at some point along our journey, we started off kind of building a product and then throwing it across the fence and just asking the lawyers, is this useful? And again, we were building that product market fit over time, and initially there was okay product market fit, and it just kept getting better and better and better. And then, cut to maybe 5 years ago, I realized we're working with thousands of the best and smartest law firms in the country. We're at the forefront of innovation, and we're co-creators with these firms around what the future of the practice of law looks like. And furthermore, we've got this unique vantage point where we're almost like a McKinsey or a Boston Consulting Group, where we get this kind of lateral view of all the great work that's happening across all these different firms. And that just puts me in a really great place to observe what are the important trends, what are the leaders in the space doing, how are we helping catalyze change with technology and co-creating with them, and then how can I gather all of those learnings up? Also, I'm a technology guy. I see what's happening in other consumer spaces. I see what Amazon's doing right. I see what I talked about Zoom and Slack and all these other. But
the way you've done it with it, to say I got all this, now I'm co-creating with the lawyers.
Right.
I mean, it's a great model.
It's an amazing place to be, and then at an event like this, we're able to turn around and say, look, here's everything we learned. And to answer your question, how do we draw this crowd and audience to hear that message? My only hope is we're saying something that's worth hearing, and that we're inspiring people.
We go home and we tell them what to come back to. You got to be here next year.
Right.
Year after year, and it's continuing to grow, and I expect there'll be 2,500 people here, if not 3,000.
Yeah. I have every expectation this will keep growing.
Thank you for doing it. I really appreciate it personally.
Thanks for supporting it.
Thank you.